Okay, well, here we are, ZBrush. I'm going to give this a go. Um, so we're trying to get our Dynamesh models into Maya. So first step before we get there is we want to ZRemesh just to be a little bit more efficient and not have to bring in tons and tons of points in Maya. Um, so here we have this character here. And let me just get a new one into edit, and I'll get rid of the thumbnail. Cool. All right. So there's the lady, and she's currently made up of 762,000 points. I believe the. Ooh, let's see if I can remember my hotkeys. So the majority of those is probably right there in. I don't know which. There we go. Is right there in the face. So over half in the face, and I'm just sorry for the delay. I'm using the remote key on the Cintiq. It's new for me, so I can't remember what the buttons are. I wish they would just label them. I think no, there we go. And then the hands are 70 each. That's 140. So that's quite a bit of points just in the head and the hands, and that makes sense. So for the detailed areas, what I'm looking for is I don't want to lose a lot of detail, so I don't want to lose a little bit of that around the eyes. I have some eyelids kind of roughed in there, and as well the ears are generic, but there is a bit of right. There's definitely a shape there that I can manipulate and use when we go to quad draw. So and the shape of the lips, and there's that little divot under the nose and whatnot. And for the hands, it's really just the nail bed. So I think we're good here. We're just going to try the head first. So I want to Z-remesh this. So I'm going to go into geometry, Z-remesher. And for the detailed areas, I'm going to do 50%. And then see, and then if I need to do 50% of 50% and etc. But for this, I'm just going to choose half, and then I'm going to zero mesh. And if you're having trouble around the edges and borders of things, I believe turning on detect edges would probably help. Especially if your your edges are kind of chunky. This would help, I think. I'm just going to pause because this is going to take forever, and I'll be back. So here we have the head down from about 460 to about 132,000. And if I just turn off the mesh here, right, it looks exactly the same. There's a bit of striations in the ears here, and that's just the detail level. So let me see if I can remember middle mouse button. Oh, that's shift, so it must be this one. Yep. So I've got a bit going on there in the ear. See, there's some kind of nastiness in there, but I don't know. I could try maybe smoothing, um, just carefully. Like I'm just tapping it. I don't want to do too much because it will lose some of the detail. And I probably didn't have my symmetry on, but that doesn't really matter. So just shift with just like I literally tapped it like just a couple of times, and that kind of averaged that out. That's good enough. The lips are slightly glued together, and a little less definition in the eyes, but overall, I'm okay with that. So let's just zoom out of here. So I'm going to do the hands next. So for the hands, I'm going to do the same thing, detailed areas. If you can drop it by half, that's probably good. But of course, that's going to depend on what your original poly count is. So I have 70,000 for the hands. If I do the Z remesh at half, let's pause that again. I'll be back when it's done. So yeah, we went from 70 to about 34,000. So I think that's fine. And then, you can check it over and see, is there any, like you see the nail bed here and stuff, I'm starting to lose a bit of detail in there. So that's fine. That at least I can indicate right when I do my hand loops and stuff that those are still kind of there. So that should be fine. I'm going to go to the other hand, and do the same thing. So Z remesh this hand at 50%, so half. Z remesh that. And again, I'll give it a pause and I'll be back. Right. So again, same with the other hand. There we go. It's done. And then it's going to be time to do the rest of the body. The rest of the body doesn't have any detail in it. So there's nothing for me to really lose. So yeah, I think it should be all right. So I'm going to go into the torso next. And this one I'm going to do at the poly count 5%. So I'm just going to leave it at standard and let it rip. And hopefully this will go quicker. I won't have to pause. So this should drop it quite a bit. It's only 50,000 points to start. So, I mean, should be fine. And then I'll do the same for the lower body and the arms, of course. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the arms, the torso, and the lower body all at 5%, all at this level. I think that's a good amount of detail. I haven't lost a lot around this shoulder loops and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to pause it out. I'm going to do the other two and I'll be back. All right. Okay. So there we go. So pants are done. They're at about 5,000. The top is done. It's at 6,000. The arms are done. They're at 5,000. So we've got a pretty good sort of layout of stuff. We went from 750,000 points down to 220,000 points. Could I go lower? Maybe, but what's the point? I'm perfectly happy with 222,000 total points. I still have the detail in the head and the arms and the hands that I wanted, and the rest of the body is sufficiently low. So now that I've done that, I'm going to export all of these as an object, and then we can go into Maya and start quad drawing. So first off, exporting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the Z plugin, and I'm going to use the Subtool Master to do all of the subtools at once. This way I can export a single file, and it will have all of the subtools in it. So down in here, there is an export. So you can see that it says export visible subtools. So all of my subtools are visible. I guess it's worth a check. If I go into subtools, they all have the eyeball next to them. So that's fine. That should work okay. I don't think there's anything else. Is there a different one that I was going to use? No, I don't think so. So just make sure that they're all visible. Export. So yeah, just making sure that we're clearing any masks that we may have left on, that's fine. Showing hidden points. I don't have anything hidden, but if we did had objects that we had used Control Shift Drag to hide, then obviously we'd want to show those and export them. Single polygroup for each subtool is definitely a great idea. Hopefully I've shown you what happens if you have two subtools, you bring it into Maya, it ends up breaking the object into like a million pieces, almost like every face is a separate object, and we don't want that. So you can get around that by ensuring that every subtool is its own unique polygroup, and it's one polygroup. It's not made up of multiple. So for instance, let me just cancel this and show you what I had. Earlier, the head was, let's see if I need to remember my keys. There we go. Earlier, I don't know if you noticed, but the eyes had a different polygroup color. So that would have been a problem. The fact that we Z remeshed it usually unifies the polygroups, so that's okay. But just to be safe, right, we've got it set up in the plugin that it's going to fix that for us. Anyways, yeah, I don't really want to use any creasing, so I'm going to turn that off. It's fine. Export to folders, export as a single file. I definitely want this all as one file, and I want it as an OBJ. So that's good. So I'm just going to say okie dokie, and it's going to ask me where it wants to go, and I just happen to be putting it. I've made a Maya project called Round Trip, and I'm just throwing everything into the scenes directory. So you can see other practice meshes that I have here. So this says base mesh 8, and I'm assuming because 2, 4, 6, no, there's only 7 subtools. I don't know why it says base mesh 8. That's an odd number to choose. I'm just going to call this one base mesh underscore new. So I know this is the newest one when I go to open it in Maya, and I can't remember what I called it. And there you go. You can see it's bumping through, and it's actually you see how it's redoing, it's changing the color. So that's actually redoing a polygroup. So it's going into that polygroup menu, and it's auto grouping all of my subtools before it exports them. So that's beautiful. Okay, so that's it. I think I'll probably save this file. I'm not sure. No, it's the same. Yeah, that's fine. I don't need to save the Dynamesh version of this, so I'm gonna leave it. So again, I'm gonna pause and launch Maya and load this all up, and then I'll meet you in Maya. Okay. All right, here we are. We're in. I got Maya launched. So I'm just gonna set my project to the. Oh, of course, everything's opening on the wrong screen. Set my project to the round trip. Set file open. And again, on the wrong monitor. You just don't open on the monitor where Maya is. Windows. Oh, well, that's weird. Oh, OBJs, right. So Maya scenes, I'm just going to switch to all files. Normally you import. That's why I didn't see it. So I just switched the file type to all files, and then I can see this. So normally you don't do file open, but it doesn't matter. As you can see, still works fine. So let's see. Oh, right. I gotta remember. Right, there we go. How to use things in Maya. So there's the mesh, and as you can, it's super dense, right, for a mesh. But it's okay. I mean, let me go to my Windows UI elements. Sorry, uh, display, heads up display, poly count, just so we can see. Got 331,000 verts total. There's 222,947 just in the head, and there is 34,000 verts in the hand. So that's what we had in ZBrush. So now we're ready to go. What I want to do is I'm probably going to just drop most of these things into display layers, I think, just to make it easier to work on them. And so first one is the head here. This is just housekeeping. You don't have to do this. So I'm going to pause it, and then I'll come back because I'm going to bore you otherwise. Right, so back. I deleted the other arm and the other hand just because there's no point. We don't need it. I'm going to do these two, and then I'm just going to duplicate it to get the other side as we do. And it's probably going to be the same with the head, to be honest. We only really have to topologize half of this, and then we can just mirror it to the other side. So I actually haven't thought of that. Let me just get in the front view here for a minute. And yeah, the problem with this is as you can see, we don't really have a midline. So what we want to do to make things symmetrical is we need to have a straight line right down the middle of the face. And when we Z remesh it, unfortunately, that's not what we get. So I'm going to have to, I'll probably start on the face. I'll probably start on the midline and maybe just build that up first. And then, I can only work on the other half. So the head's probably the most difficult bit. So I might just start with some of the easier things like the arms, the torso, and the lower body. So I'm just going to go into perspective here and start with the arms, I think. So I'm just going to hide everything but the arm. So there's the arm, and it's got the ends closed off, which is okay. I probably won't be closing off the ends, I don't think. Just because again it's wasted. You don't see this, so there's no point to have them. And I don't know whether I'm going to get rid of them at this step, but they might come back. And just so you know, when we come back into Maya for a final whatever, then if I'm going to use this model, I might get rid of these faces at either ends. But for now, it's fine. So I'm going to just come into this thing, and I'm going to select this object. I'm going to make it live by going up in here under the status line and clicking where it says no live surface. I'm just going to click the magnet next to it. It's going to say group 21 So that's not really super helpful. So I'm just going to call this left arm geo. So just so it's a little bit, right? And then when I make it live, I can see the left arm geo is the live surface. It goes this wonderful winter green kind of color, and then live just means it's sticky and you can draw on it. So then we're going to go into our mesh tools, and we want our quad draw. And in the options, there isn't really anything to see. Can reset the tool, but it's on its default whatever, and so that's fine. I'm just gonna live with whatever the default is. I definitely want it to auto weld, and yeah, extending edges for now is all fine. Yada yada yada. So the way this works is you just drop points down. So um, I'm gonna go into the front view, I think, and then I'm gonna just zoom in here. And let's just turn on the wireframe shaded so we can see what's going on. And I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 points down. And then if I hold down Shift and hover, it's gonna highlight as my cursor comes into that square, and it's just showing me the pattern that's going to be made. So that's a face. So I can just click on there now, and it's going to create the face. If I want to straighten up the edges a little bit at this point, I can do that, and then I can just build from here. Now I did it in the front view just because I wanted to kind of get it as straight as I can at the beginning. But I'm going to be doing a lot of snapping and stuff after the fact. I really don't like this process. That's why I prefer to start my models in Maya and then go to ZBrush, and then you don't have to do this process because you've already modeled a proper mesh in Maya. But for those of you, we're going in the other direction, which is ZBrush to Maya, then sure, we should be able to know how to do this, and then hopefully I'll be able to show you maybe a quicker way to do this with a base mesh and shrink wrapping and a few other tools that we may have at our disposal. All right, anyway, I'm now going to go and put in 2 more points. So there's a point and there's a point. And again, if I hold down Shift and hover, that's going to tell me where the face is. And I'm just going to straighten these edges up a little bit. I'm not really sure what I should be following. Probably should be following these lines. So there's one, Shift. And then we're just going to keep going around and around. So next 2 here. And there we go, Shift. And let me just straighten that out a bit, and I don't know, whatever. And then let's tumble some more. Let's go with 2 more points. And there's the next 2 points. And I might just move this. All right, and then let's go 2 and 2, and then shift in here and shift in here, and I think I'm done. Yeah, so it's not exactly like wonderful and straight or anything, so we can do that now. Maybe pull this down, pull that up. If you need to add more points, like this is pretty light. So what you can do is if you just hover over here with the Shift key, you can put edges in this way or this way. So I can just drop in an edge loop going around. Now, probably should have made sure I was kind of equidistant before I did that, but that's okay. So there we go. So there's a definite process. All right, yep. And now I need to come to the other side. So this is if you do tab, you can see when I hold down the tab, I'm just pressing and holding tab, it says extrude. It's extruding a single edge. I actually want to extrude the whole border loop edge here. So I don't want to just hold down tab and drag out to make a single face. So I'm just going to do that. I want to hold down tab, and then I'm going to right mouse click and hold. So there's the right mouse, or is it the left mouse? I'm using the pen, so I can't remember. It's the lower rocker for me. Middle mouse, that's the left. Yeah, right mouse click, extend, and then I want to extend the border. So I'm just going to highlight that and let go. And you can see now when I hover, I still have the tab pressed. It's allowing me to do the whole loop. So now I can extend that over to the side. And that looks pretty good, all in all. I'd like to be able to select this whole loop, but it doesn't seem to want to let me do that in this tool. It's too bad because I'd really like to. I wonder if I go into edge mode. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, tab it up. So there's the tab. I'm gonna drag out the next one, and I'm gonna go tab again and drag out the next one. I want to space these out a little bit before I go any further. So I think I'm just going to hit Q, just exit the tool. And then if I go into object mode, and I can X-ray, and you can see that when you're clicking the live surface, what it does is it puts the vertices on the surface. So if you don't have the same resolution, like clearly there's going to be straight lines in here. You can see how that dark blue line, that's the face. It's just going to be a plane. So it looks like to me it could be nice if this was split one more time because that would help me kind of get that round shape. So I always start as light as I possibly can, and it's very easy once you have your base mesh in. If it's all made out of quads and it all has a proper loop flow, it's so easy to go in after the fact and just go insert an edge loop, or do a mesh smooth or something like that. So I don't want to really stress too much about this, but I want to look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I actually only have 7 faces going around here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vertices, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 edges. Generally, I like a minimum of 8 to make something round and smooth. That's sort of the lowest level of base mesh. And just when I drew it in, I only drew in 7. So I could add a split in here once and then go around and adjust their positions slightly. And that would give me a minimum of 8. But yeah, there's nothing stopping you from doing, any even number, but 8's usually good, 16's good. I suppose in a pinch you could do something like a 12. But I'm going to go with an 8. So I'm going to insert one more edge loop and I'm going to adjust it. So just because it's going to be tedious watching me do that, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to insert one loop going in the long direction, and then I'm going to adjust some of the positions of the verts and the edges. So I'll be back and I'll talk about what I did.